What is up, guys? It is the Sportster Bradley Walker, and welcome to the Walker Report, part of NGSC Sports. Remember the website, guys. It's ngscsports.com for all your current sports content. The show is on 3 new networks now. The first one is Snowman Multimedia Sports. We are also on Game Winner Sports Network and Mancini Media. So welcome in. I want to thank Kevin Dixon and Dana Clark for the opportunity that they gave me. We could not come to an agreement. That is why we are no longer part of In the Zone. I wish everyone on that network the best of luck moving forward, but I wanted to thank Kevin and Dana for helping me get my start. Thank you very much, guys. We have 2 sponsors, guys. We have CreatingZenSpaces.com. It is the local choice in St. Petersburg, Florida for house cleaning, organization, decluttering, and pet sitting. It's about finding the peace within you and adding comfort to your life. Remember, guys, Zen Spaces begins with you. Be kind to yourself and one another. We are sponsored also by Garrett's Carrots at Garrett'sCarrots.com. Welcome in, guys. Let me bring in my 3 co-hosts. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
How's it, guys? How's it going?
All right.
It's going.
It's been an interesting week, to say the least.
Yes.
I just saw, Gerald, before I got on here, that the Oklahoma and Texas are coming to the SEC next year.
2024?
I told you, didn't I, Brad? I told you it was going to be before
Just announced it.
Season.
Yeah, they just announced it a few minutes ago.
I had a feeling that was when they paved the way for it a couple months ago. Yeah, right before bowl season. I kind of figured that would happen anyway.
Yeah, because
the contract with the Longhorn Network is up at the end of 2023.
Okay.
And they already said they're not going to renew that contract.
You think so?
So after 2023, there will be no more Longhorn Network.
Interesting.
Now that could change. They could go ahead and renew it.
I was going to say,
yeah,
they might renew it as they go to the SEC.
Probably not, because they're going to go to the SEC. So then all of their content will get moved over to the SEC network.
More than likely.
But then again, that does bring in a bunch of revenue for UT. So it could go either way.
It's going to save them a ton of money by not having to maintain the television network.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron James has set the NBA scoring record.
Was only a matter of time.
So
that's what I think about LeBron.
There's a lot of people that don't like him, but he is the all-time NBA points leader of all time. So
A lot of people didn't like Will Chamberlain or others for obvious reasons too. So
yeah, didn't when Kareem passed Wilt, there was a big kind of downfall to that too. So now that LeBron passed Kareem, but records are meant to be broken. So I mean, you knew that was going to come down to it. I think if it continues on, you could see Giannis maybe one day breaking LeBron's record.
It could happen
for all time.
I
heard a lot of
because Kareem's record stood for 39 years. I don't think that LeBron's record is going to hold that long. Not the way the game is played today.
No,
especially since LeBron is on his way out.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's got maybe 2 more years. I think he'll probably play 1 season with Bronny, and that'll be it.
Mm-hmm.
Your Rangers got a big gun today there, Lou.
Yeah. I know. And we're doing pretty good out of the All-Star break.
Yeah. Coming out of the All-Star break. The trade deadline, I think, is next week, right, in the NHL?
I thought it was 2 weeks. I think it was like March
2 weeks?
9th.
Okay.
Not sure what it is offhand.
Trying to remember anything else before we start our rival thing. I was trying to remember if there was anything else that happened during the week.
Oh yeah. What about Michael Irvin being removed from the Super Bowl
coverage?
Because that lady said that he made a improper comment.
Well, that's a issue that I really don't want to get into because it's a political thing, and we don't do that on here. But that's what's wrong with society today is you say something out of context that someone else doesn't agree with, then they'll call you every name in the book, even though that might not be true. So that's the unfortunate part.
Yeah, you got to watch what you say to.
Yeah. Anybody, because if anybody hears you say something,
what you say or do.
Correct. And then it's bad news after, And
the way things are right now is that, those kind of things that they just can't have that around,
Mm-hmm.
So until unfortunately, if he said what he's, if what he's saying is true, then, he's getting borked out of a whatever he might have gotten from doing Super Bowl coverage. But if what she said is true, then, he doesn't need to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's he said, she said, and, if I've heard that there may have been inappropriate contact is what I was hearing. And so, I think we all learned in second grade to keep our hands to ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
Just keep your hands to yourself and, take your COVID protocols. Everybody stay 6 feet from each other,
That is correct.
I don't know what went down. It's under investigation, and with things like that are under investigation. The NFL Network and the league have to protect the brand. And so it's a no-win situation for everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Again, until the investigation is done, because sometimes it comes back that it wasn't true. And sometimes it comes back and it is true. So it'll be up to the network.
You never know.
And the NFL to, say what they're going to say. But Adam's right. They're protecting the brand, a multi-billion-dollar brand. So they know what to do. Say the right thing. Don't say this. So they know what they're doing. Their PR people know what they're doing. But guys, like I said, tonight's show, we are live on the Facebook Walker Report group. Please head over to the Walker Report YouTube page. Like, share, subscribe. Guys, we're only one follower away from 50. Who's going to be number 50? Somebody out there can be number 50. Anyway, guys, we're going to do sports rivalries. Some of these are sports movies. So not all of these are real life rivalries. You guys want me to share the list with you guys on here, or
sure?
Or you could share the list, or you could just start at the top and work our way down. We take a couple minutes on each, and if we want more time, we can take longer.
Okay.
Why don't you screen share it so that when people are watching, they can follow along with us?
That would be an excellent idea. Let me see real quick. Hang on just a second. Let's see here.
The joys of live radio, people. We don't have a production team, so it's just the four of us goofballs here. If you want to be a producer, it's an unpaid position.
Yes.
Not yet, but eventually, I'm hoping in the future we'll have a production team. I'm hoping for that in the future.
It will still be an unpaid position. Just putting that out. No, I'm kidding. It's a summer.
Hang on, guys.
Summer
Let me make that a little bit bigger for you. Hang on just a second.
I can't. It's not even showing up for me. So. Okay, it's still there. We go. Okay.
Is that okay there? Can everybody
There we
see it
go.
now?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
You mean
pretty
make
good.
it
And then
bigger,
we
or is
can
that
just.
okay right there?
I could do with a little bit bigger, but I'm on my phone and I'm kind of far back, so.
Hang on just a second, but let me.
Yep.
How about that? Anybody good now?
Yeah,
or-
that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
So the first one, guys, obviously is from NASCAR. Both of these, well, one of them
Oh yeah.
is not here anymore. God rest his soul. The other one, I don't know.
Right.
Does he do any? Is he an analyst? What is he still involved?
He
in
works
NASCAR?
for Hendrick.
Okay.
He's
Makes sense.
VP at Hendrick now.
Okay.
He's getting ready to take over when Rick steps away.
Gotcha. Okay.
So after Hendrick step away, it's going to be Hendrick Gordon Motorsports.
Maybe they haven't announced one way or another if they're going to change the name or if it's going to stay Hendrick Motorsports.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I'll kick this one off because this is one, and I would love to get Gerald's thought on this too. But I think Gordon versus Earnhardt is a product of nostalgia, because I don't think that Gordon and Earnhardt, they didn't have the blood feud like some of the other guys we'll get into on the list in the 90s. They were, and it's the kind of a mutual respect thing. Yeah, of course they were rivals, but they were rivals in name only, and when you have a 3,400-pound massive steel and gasoline whipping it through corners at 200 plus miles an hour, you have to have a level of respect and trust with your competition that they're not going to do something asinine. And I think it's more so the fact that Dale Earnhardt passed away unexpectedly and far too soon that has created the nostalgia and the mythos of Gordon versus Earnhardt.
I completely agree, Adam. It's the rivalry between Gordon and Earnhardt, that was in the moment. But
I think it's.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say I think it's more nostalgic. It's more after the fact than it was ever in the moment. Unless you're saying in the moment on the track, in the moment on the track, they definitely were rivals. They were always pushing each other to be. That's what I will 100% agree with you on that, because I don't see them. I think the rivalry of Gordon Earnhardt is more nostalgic than it is anything than it is reality. It's hindsight. It's the fact that we lost Earnhardt so early, and in the way we lost him, that Gordon Earnhardt, by the time Gordon comes into his own, Earnhardt is on the decline. You look at 95 through 2000, Earnhardt had a dozen wins at most, and he was a distant third, a distant fourth. By the time Gordon is winning titles, Earnhardt is on his way out. And there were definitely points when in 99, 2000, after he won the 500, he'd finally done it. He finally conquered the beast. And everybody was talking about the future. What was Dale going to do? He had DEI, and he had his son, his best friend in Michael Waltrip, and building that team for the future, so his kids wouldn't have to do what he did. They wouldn't be strokers. They wouldn't have to come up and struggle for 15 years before they got their big break. And I think that we look back on the 90s and we have we didn't get Dale Earnhardt in his retirement. We didn't get to experience Dale Earnhardt's post NASCAR career and see what that would have led to. And, because to me, Dale's biggest rivals were in the 80s, guys like Waltrip and Bodine and Wallace. those were always Dale's biggest rivals because by the time Gordon gets there, when Dale is winning titles in the 90s, Gordon is still so young and so inexperienced that he's not really competing with Dale. And by the time he is competing with Dale, he's so much better than Dale that they were never the same in that same kind of rivalry that Earnhardt Waltrip had, where when Dale was his rivals with Waltrip, they were contemporaries and they were both competitive.
Mm-hmm. They were. That was racing at its best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was.
No, I always thought that Gordon and Stewart were much bigger rivals than Gordon and Earnhardt ever were.
Yeah. I'll give you that too.
And Gordon and Wallace. Gordon and Wallace had a lot more tangles.
Yeah, they did.
And the old bump and run at Bristol in what, 04 or 05? I think it was 04.
It was 04.
And
yeah, 04.
it was the Bristol night race in 04. He gave him the boot, and then up the track, Wallace went, and Gordon went on to win. And so those are my thoughts, and so we can move on to the U.S. and USSR. If y'all are so inclined.
If people don't know what the USSR is, that's the Soviet Union.
Yes.
That is now Russia.
The artist formerly known as the Soviet Union.
The Soviet Union. Their president is a former part of the USSR, which, another political thing that we're not going to get into here on what country they're invading as we speak. But anyway, this is the biggest upset maybe in sports history. This took place in Lake Placid at the Winter Games in 1980.
Yes.
Hockey was dominated by the Soviets. They had the gold medal. I don't know how many straight Olympics they had it, something like that.
Four straight gold medals.
Four straight gold medals. I know they had before the tournament started in Lake Placid, they had upset the NHL All-Star team. I mean, in Madison Square Garden. Or no, I'm sorry. They beat the United States at Madison Square Garden, embarrassed them. And everyone thought that was the way it was going to be. And the Americans struggled early on in the games. They weren't, they came out kind of flat. But as we all know, what happened, a lot of people think that it was the gold medal game. That was not the gold medal game. That was the qualifier to the gold medal game, where they beat Finland. I think, was it 2 days later? They beat Finland for the gold, something like that. But they won 4-3. The winning goal came off the stick of Mike Caruso. And I thought I read an article, guys, the other day. One of the players, I think, committed suicide recently. Pavlich, I believe, is the one I saw an article the other day about. Again, we don't talk a lot about this on this show a lot, but mental health is a big issue in this country and in the world in general, it needs to be brought more to front. I know even myself, sometimes it's hard as a guy to ask for help. But we need to start asking for help. If you're having an issue with mental health, please reach out to somebody.
Don't hesitate.
Don't do anything that's going to hurt yourself or hurt somebody else. There's help out there. And you can call somebody. I mean, I've had a couple times where I've had to, talk to people and say, it's not worth it, dude. Take a step back from the ledge. Stuff like that. But anyway, to get back to that, the Americans won 4-3. The winning goal came from Mike Eruzione. And they beat the Soviet Union. And that was kind of the beginning of the end of their domination of hockey. Everybody figured out how to beat them. And the way to beat them was basically to just beat them.
Yeah, but you're going to get anywhere.
That's the place where the Soviet Union dominated, was in the third period, and the United States was able to, being the conditioning that they were given, they were able to overcome the Soviet Union. And if you want to watch Al Michaels' great call, it's on YouTube. You can Google it on YouTube and listen to.
I remember it was live.
Yeah. See, you got to watch it live, Lou. I wasn't born yet.
I was negative 12.
So.
Yeah. The other thing that was so important about that was that the U.S. had such egg on their face after the failed rescue operation.
Correct.
Earlier in that year, to free the Iranian hostages, and the U.S. was very much we're at that point. This is all from secondhand and listening to people talk about that, but we were not the bullies on the street. We were still reeling from Vietnam. We were still dealing with our own political infighting, and the Soviets had just kicked our asses up and down the ice rink for the last 20 years. And outside of the Summit Series, when Philly just bullied the Soviets right off the ice, they'd come and destroyed all of our best players.
Well, you could even say, but too, that Canada had a rivalry with Russia too.
Yeah,
those two teams didn't like each other either. So, I mean,
absolutely,
no one liked the Soviet Union when it came to hockey.
No.
Plain and simple, nobody liked the Soviet Union when it came to hockey.
But
you're right, bud. It was a bad time to be an American in the early 80s.
Late 70s, early 80s. And it was very much a come together moment at that time to start. And it showed the world that we were still capable and what we were capable of.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
A bunch of kids were able to come together and not just skate with, but beat the Soviet Union at the game that they were the best at.
Mm-hmm.
We take these collection of athletes who were this different group of athletes, and we come together for 2 weeks and we become a team, and we go out and we beat the best team in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to Herb Brooks, because that was the coach that figured out how to beat them. And if you remember too, watch again, and we've talked about this on the show before too. If you guys haven't seen the movie's Miracle. It's a Disney movie. It's not animated; it is real. In
live action.
Kurt Russell plays Herb Brooks in the movie. Brooks passed away, I think, a month or weeks prior to the movie coming out. He was killed in a car accident. But they say in the post-credit scene that he didn't need to see it. He lived it. He was there to see it. And he was one of those, and I remember watching not only the live feed of the game and now the movie, he walked off the bench after they won. He didn't want to take any credit. He wanted the kids to get the credit for what they had done, what they like Adam mentioned, they came together as a unit and shocked the world. I mean, that's what we did. We shocked the world, so it was a coming together moment, definitely.
The Russians were professionals.
Correct.
All they did was play hockey. That's
correct.
Back to what you were saying about when we first started talking about this USA and the Russia game back then about the mental health. Well, somebody like myself that has a mental health issue, okay, it's no joke. It took a wake up call for me to get help. to realize, hey, I have a problem. I need to get help with this. So, I'm gonna let y'all know right now. I'm just a phone call away if any of y'all need to talk about anything.
That's a good first step too, Gerald, because it takes a lot of time. Some people don't even admit that they have an issue. They're afraid. They're afraid to admit that. So that was
too proud.
To admit that you had a problem and you went and got help for it. Because some people just go, yeah, I'm going to drink myself to death. I'm going to smoke. I'm going to eat myself to death, or whatever it might be. Whatever they want to do, that's what they do. So
it's not the right thing to do, though.
Not at all. Not at all.
No.
Again, go out there and get help. It's out there.
Even if I may not be a professional, but at least I'm here to listen and try to talk y'all off the ledge.
Yeah.
Right. We can get you the professionals that can help.
Correct.
Exactly.
Well, anyway,
you have to do.
Yep. Go, Joe.
There's a hotline that you can call. If you need help. I want to try to find that number, and if I can find that number, I will post it in the group in all the group chats that we have.
Sounds good to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys. The next two are movies. Can someone tell me what Trickle and Burns represents?
Days of Thunder.
Days of Thunder.
There you go. Days of Thunder.
What is it? Oh, yeah.
Days of Thunder.
Days
Cole
of
Trickle
Thunder.
and Rowdy Burns were the two drivers against each other. I guess you could kind of say they had a more rivalry than Earnhardt and Gordon did, even though it was a fantasy. It was a fantasy, not a reality.
Well, they based the characters Trickle and Burns off of Earnhardt and Richmond. Actually,
Okay.
It was a total fantasy. It was a total fiction movie, but they pulled inspiration from Dale Earnhardt and Tim Richmond. And that whole scene where they're driving through, I don't know where it was in the movie, but it actually took place in Atlanta. Earnhardt and Richmond rented cars and drove through Atlanta, just beating on each other. Yeah, that whole scene where Cole and
Rowdy,
where Burns are in the president's office. Yeah, that was Earnhardt and Bodine. That was pulled from. You can watch interviews of Richard Childress talking about about Days of Thunder and how they lived it. Like you said about Herb Brooks, you didn't have to see the movie because he lived it. Yeah. That was all inspired by things that had happened between Earnhardt and the different people that he was racing against. Yeah, that's where the inspiration for some of that stuff comes from.
And that number 5 car that Cole Trickle drove in the beginning of the movie.
The City Chevrolet car?
Yeah, that was actually a real sponsor. And it was owned by Rick Hendrick.
Mm-hmm.
Did not know that. That's cool to know. I did not know that.
Yeah, Rick provided all the cars for the movie.
Yep. How can you think when you see the number 5 on NASCAR now? How can you think you see a Chevrolet? Because Rick Hendrick has a Chevrolet dealership, and it's called Capital Chevrolet, a city Chevrolet.
Yeah, that was the sponsor for, and that's his first car, right? Right. That's cool. I did not know that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Part of that movie did have real connections to NASCAR. Then part of it was fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all. It's all inspired by the stories of NASCAR, and they, of course with obvious embellishment, but it's a great movie. It's one of my personal favorites.
Oh, it is. I like that part in the movie where his pit crew told where Cole's pit crew, his crew chief told him, "Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go out there and hit the pace car." He goes,
"You want me to what?"
Cole goes, "Why?
What?
You want me to do what?" He goes, and his crew chief goes, "Yeah, you done hit everything else out on the track when I go hit the pace car."
Yeah,
I love that.
Perfect.
I love that. I love that scene where where his crew's got ice cream. he goes, "Well, I'd let you have some, but I don't think NASCAR would appreciate you dripping ice cream on the track."
no,
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah,
Such a fun movie.
I recommend everybody go watch that movie. It's it has its serious part, but then again, it has its funny parts.
Right.
Yeah, it's got a little bit for everybody.
And again, at the end of the movie,
they had that female deputy kind of get rowdy with old Cole Trickle.
Yep.
Remember that part, Adam?
Oh, it's been too long since I've seen the movie. Not offhand.
After his first win, after he won his first race.
After his first win, they were driving down the road drinking that moonshine.
Yeah.
And they got pulled over. That female deputy.
I don't remember that part. No, sorry. I've been meaning. It's one of those ones that I watch like at least once a year. So at some point, I'm gonna watch it again.
Like I said,
I do like that part when they were driving to dinner. Like Adam was saying, Cole and Burns were driving to dinner, and they were doing it. They were having their own demolition derby right in the middle of Atlanta. And when they got to the restaurant, I guess it was the president or somebody of NASCAR asked them, "Well, what took you so long?" Car
Radiator.
trouble. What was it?
I think it was the radiator.
Alternator? I don't know, but they go back and show both cars. Both cars are just beat to hell.
Yep.
Dents, dings, missing the headlights.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know, Trickle ends up racing Rowdy's car at the end of the movie.
Yes.
Yellow at Daytona, where they both were in a horrific car accident. But was that off of anybody that had any accidents at Daytona like
there
that?
was something. There was
Earnhardt. That was off of Earnhardt and what's his name? When Earnhardt tore his car up real bad. Oh, I mean he ripped the motor out of it, tore the front end off of it. I mean the car was just totaled. Trying to remember who was involved in it. I know it was Earnhardt. And
Earnhardt had some serious wrecks throughout the 80s.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't remember offhand.
Ricky Road or Tim Richmond that was involved in that one. I don't remember for sure.
Yeah, I would. If I'm thinking of the one, if we're thinking, I think it was Richmond.
Yeah,
but
it was
that.
Tim Richmond and Earnhardt, because Richmond was behind Earnhardt, and somehow or another Richmond got loose and slid into Earnhardt's back bumper and spun him, and that's what started the whole thing.
And they're on from there. But yeah, I don't know if the whole getting the whole driver thing ever really happened. I'm sure it did happen at some point where somebody got hurt and then somebody else got the ride. You know, that happens every now and again. But I don't know of any specific incidents offhand that would have inspired that particular segment of the movie.
That's the only thing I can think of is Earnhardt and Richmond wreck.
All right. The next one, guys, tell me what symbolizes the Ducks and the Hawks.
The Mighty Ducks.
There you go.
Yeah. D1, man.
That was D1. Yep, that was D1.
The movie that inspired the American hockey team.
Great movie.
Correct.
Yeah.
Who played the coach in that movie for the Ducks? What was his name?
Emilio Estevez.
Yeah.
Gordon Bombay was the character's name. Their coach. He was a lawyer. He got pulled over for drunk driving, and he had to serve community service. And the thing was that he could volunteer to coach a group of kids who no one gave a shot to play hockey, and he was able to get them to believe in each other.
Yeah.
in many different ways.
Yeah. It was kind of again inspired loosely by the Miracle, the 1980s team. It was loosely inspired by that. Now, her books was not on community service or anything, but it was more personal for her than it was for Gordon.
Correct. But yes, that is the Mighty Ducks.
Yes, the first one.
The first one. If you want to take a look at that movie, it's again
Disney Plus.
Good. Yeah, it's a kids movie. They did make D2 and D3. D2 they went to play in the Goodwill Games, and I think it was Norway, right? Was that the team that they played against? Iceland. That's right. Iceland was the team that they had fought with in the second one. And in the third one, it was them in college, and they were facing off against the varsity team, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
The third one wasn't nearly as good as the first two.
I agree.
Because Gordon didn't come back for the third one. They didn't, Emilio didn't reprise his role as Gordon Bombay for the third one.
He came in at the end, bud. He came in at
Did
the
he?
end.
I don't remember him being in the movie at all.
They were all going to be kicked out of their scholarships. So who do you call? A lawyer, right? They call him. And the rest is history. But he never coached in the first two movies. So
No. The third one left a lot to be desired.
Right.
As I remember, it's been too long. I remember enjoying it when I was a kid. When it first came out, and I was, like 12 or 13 when I watched it. I enjoyed it as I liked the movie, but
I was young then too.
15, 20 years later, I can recognize it as not a good movie. But the first one, it was such a good movie. It was such, it had such inspiring, the whole wrong side of the tracks, losers who would never amount to anything, and the spoiled rich kid who is who everybody thinks is the next great one, has to get sent in and has to deal with being and not know, all the bad kids, have to deal with a, spoiled rich kid who's never had a hard day of work in his life, and this group of youngsters has to, they end up working, they work together and develop a camaraderie and a brotherhood that, you only get through playing sports. And, and how the spoiled rich kid has a massive dose of reality, a huge culture shock. And he realizes that, it's not that being a good person is more important than having money. And the kids that he's always, never associated with, realize that he's just another person, and that, it's not money that makes him good. It's being good that makes him good.
Mm-hmm. Yes. What was the kid's name? This was
Adam Banks.
Adam Banks. That's right.
Right.
Charlie Conway was the one who was like the one that had skill, but never, kind of was a,
never had the money.
Never had the money. His mother was a waitress.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, so the first two movies, guys, are definitely worth going to see. The third one, unless you are a super Mighty Ducks fan, you can watch the third one, but the first two are definitely worth going to see. So,
yeah, I think they're all on Disney Plus, so check them out there. Not sponsored.
And I want to say, isn't there a series with?
Yeah, they had a series.
Yes.
I haven't watched any of that
too. So yeah,
I don't know anything about the series, but the first two movies are excellent. The third one, I haven't watched any of the series. I might do that. It's been on my to-do list.
I didn't
That's
either,
on Disney Plus as well. if you're a Disney Plus subscriber, you have the opportunity to do that one. The next one, guys, is more local for me. This rivalry was a lot in the 90s between Florida and Florida State. These were the two coaches of the respective schools. Both of these gentlemen are well respected in college football. Now they're both, Bobby Bowden passed away a few years back.
2020, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, a couple. Yeah, he. I remember watching, I think, his last press conference he did at FSU. And the funny thing, guys, is both of these names are on the respective university stadiums. It's Steve Spurrier Field at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. That's the Gators. And it's Bobby Bowden Field at Doak Campbell Stadium. That's FSU's stadium in Tallahassee. They're not far apart from each other. These two did not like each other. These two played every year. It's a game that's played every other than the pandemic year because it was an all-conference thing. These two are not in the same conference. That could be coming in the near future.
I think it is.
The teams are changing conferences. These two teams, again, just like with a lot of, you look down the list and you see the Red Wings and the Avalanche. We can skip through the Boston ones if you want, but these two teams did not like each other. They spoiled a lot of seasons for each of them. When they played each other, whoever lost would be spoiled. They did meet in a national championship in 1996. The Gators clobbered the Seminoles 52-23 on that night. That was the Gators' first national championship in school history. Of course, they won a couple more with Urban Meyer as their head coach, not as Steve Spurrier. Spurrier only won one as a coach. And I believe Bobby Bowden won 3 or 4 national championships at FSU. Four.
Bobby was there forever, though.
Yeah, Jimbo Fisher was the reason he got kicked out. And
he got done so dirty by FSU.
Yeah. Jimbo wanted to become the head coach, and he told them flat out, either you make me the head coach or I'm leaving.
And then he left anyway.
And Bobby left. Jim left anyway and went on to coach at A&M where he's at now. And you could talk to any FSU fan, they can't stand Jimbo Fisher. So they can't stand Jimbo Fisher. So
he's quickly wearing out his welcome down in A&M too. So
yeah. That was go ahead, bud.
Oh, I was just gonna say that was growing up in the 90s, that was the best rivalry in college football.
Correct.
And again,
you wouldn't still consider Michigan Ohio State?
No, that wasn't a rivalry. 10-2-2.
Okay.
No. We stomped the hell out of the Buckeyes in the 90s. No. That wasn't a rivalry. It was unmerciless. The Seminoles Gators was must-see TV for 10 years.
It was.
It was.
I still dislike the Seminoles.
Right.
So, yeah.
I mean, wide left, wide right, wide left, wide right. I mean, Bobby Bowden hears wide right in his sleep.
Well, that was against Miami, boy. That wasn't Florida.
Was it Miami?
That was Miami.
Florida.
That was the Kings, which you could put them on this list, too. I forgot all about that rivalry. Florida State, Miami. I have a good friend of mine who I went and watched the Royal Rumble with a couple weeks ago, and he's a Noles fan, diehard Noles fan. And I asked him, I said, who do you hate playing more, Miami or Florida? He said Miami. He said Miami. He goes, because they're in our conference. We've had so many close games with them. So, yeah. And again, the Florida State, just like some rivalries, after a while, they go – I wouldn't say dormant, but they don't have the fire that they had in the past. And the Florida State rivalry, other than when Tim Tebow was there, it hasn't really been a rivalry for a while, and FSU won this year. but it hasn't been a rivalry for a while where, the teams come into the game and it means something. Mm-hmm. Maybe that'll happen this year. I don't know. Coach Norvell got an extension for all my Seminole fans out there. He got a 6-year extension, now head coach until 2029. I heard that on the radio the other day. So Billy Napier's got work to do in Florida. So, yeah.
I'm surprised he got that long of an extension this soon. Because at the start of 2022, he was on the hot seat.
Correct. And I think, but had he failed, Deion Sanders would have been in FSU.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. 100%. Deion would have never taken the Colorado job if he thought if FSU was available, if there was any inkling that FSU was going to be available.
That's his alum. That's where Deion went to school. So,
absolutely.
Well,
back in the 90s.
I'm gonna leave the next one to Adam because this rivalry was the premier one in the NHL. Might be still to this day the greatest NHL rivalry out of all of them. I rank this number one, but I'm gonna leave it to Adam because he's a Red Wings fan. So I'm gonna give him the floor.
Well, if you're gonna give me the floor, I need the proper attire. Put my bias on here tonight. Yeah. So the whole rivalry stems from the Claude Lemieux hit on Chris Draper in '95.
Oh yeah.
When Claude gets Claude was not liked by the rest of the league even before this when he was with Montreal. And when he was in New Jersey, and when he was not already not liked by the league. He was one of those guys where if you was guys that you hated one on the other team but loved on your team. He was the consummate pest, and he caught Draper from behind and hit him headfirst to the dasher. And what really set it off was his refusal to apologize. See, everyone in the Red Wings organization was willing to just let it go and move on, but he would not apologize. He refused to apologize, and it spread bad blood. It was a blood feud for 5 straight years. It was nothing but a blood feud, and they knocked us out in '96. So we had to get retribution in '97 or '96, whichever year it was. I want to say it was March 26, '97, that when you bled on the ice. And when McCarty got the chance to cold cock him, he didn't miss. When they go off, and it started, you can go back, on YouTube, you can YouTube Colorado, Detroit, and you can find the past broadcasts, and which was the Red Wings, the local Red Wings affiliate at the time. And when what happened was there was an offside play, and the puck goes into the wing zone, and it's Colorado's offside, and everybody's kind of skating away except for Igor and Forsberg. And they're having words, and Igor just grabs Federer or grabs Forsberg, and it's on from there. And Waugh comes, McCarty's got Lemieux down on the ice and just feeding him left hands, just right over the top, just feeding him left hands. And Shanahan came over. And by the time Shanahan goes to get involved, Waugh comes out of the net, and out of the corner of Shanahan's eye, all he sees is this mass moving towards him. So he just turned his head, dropped his shoulder, and gave Waugh the "how do you do?" And Vernon comes out of the net, and it's on from there. It's a full-on brawl. And Detroit would go on to win that game, won back-to-back cups, and the rivalry had kind of cooled off because Detroit wasn't as good as they had been. But they were good, but they weren't, they were in a kind of a retooling period from '99 till about 2002, and Colorado won a cup, won a couple cups, and because Colorado wins in 96, Detroit wins in 97, 98, then Dallas wins in 99, and the oh God, who was it? Then the Devils win in 2000, the Avs win again in 2001.
Yeah, the Stars won in 99.
Correct. And then so in 2002, it's kind of the last hurrah for the main part of the rivalry. Was that Game 7. And the other thing is that Wild played in Detroit or played in Montreal, and the Wings put 7 goals on him in a period, and he went to the Canadians GM and said, "I'm done," and walked off, went to the locker room, and never came back. Never played another minute for the Canadiens, and they dealt him to the Nordiques, and then they became the Avalanche, and history is born. It's there's so many. Dino in '96, he had been hurt or was kicked out of a game, or I don't remember exactly. I think he was hurt. I think he had been hurt, and they're doing the handshake. They're doing the traditional handshake at the end of the series in '96, right. And they were asking him about. They went in the locker room afterwards, and everybody's getting their gear off, and they asked him about it. And he said, "I can't believe I shook his friggin' hand." And now, now 30 years on, things, bygones are bygones, and everybody's made peace with it, and it's not the blood feud that it was, but when it was you knew where you needed to be. You knew where you needed to be when the Wings and Avs got together for a game, because it was gonna be blood on the ice. That's some of my earliest hockey memories. And just that I said, is it Georgia and Georgia Tech, that good old fashioned hate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely 100% good old fashioned hate. I don't like you. You don't like me. Let's pick some particulars and get it over with.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, that was definitely, like you were just saying, much watch football, college football in the 90s. Much watch pro hockey was Avs Wings. I don't care if you weren't a fan of either one of those teams. You were all, like Adam said, you knew where you were going to be. They would put those games on in the afternoon, in the evening, knowing they were going to get a big viewing audience because of the rivalry between the two of them. And that was it was interesting.
It didn't matter whether it was game 52 of the regular season or game 7 of the Western Conference Finals. You were going to pack the house. You were going to pack the bars. You were getting butts and seats, as it were.
Correct. Absolutely correct. Okay. The next one, if it's up to you guys if you want to go there. I'm the more knowledgeable one.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the next one. If you do not know who Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus are, some people do not know who they are. They were at one time the top 2 golfers on the PGA Tour. They were known as the King and the Bear. The King was Arnie. The Bear was Jack Nicklaus. You were either part of Arnie's army. So you either hated Jack Nicklaus, or you loved him, or you loved Arnold Palmer, or you hated him. It just depended on which side of the rivalry you were on. Nicklaus has the most majors of any professional golfer with 18. The closest, of course, is Tiger. But Tiger, I don't think will catch the record now with his health. And I don't think he's playing. But other than that, they were towards the end of their career as like everything else, like Adam was saying, with the with the players of the Avalanche and the Wings, you gain a mutual respect for each other. At one time, the two of them were teeing off to open up the Masters every year. Actually, it was Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, and Gary Player, who you could throw Gary Player into that rivalry as well. They were the three that kind of dominated the tour for a long time. So that was the premier golf rivalry. I don't believe we have one today. There was no one that I would say was a rival to Tiger. It wasn't Phil. So there was a lot of. I'm sorry.
Not even Phil Mickelson.
No, because if you think about it, Lou, they didn't go wire to wire in a lot of tournaments. Palmer and Nicklaus were wire to wire in a lot of tournaments. Phil wasn't. Phil got better as he got older, but he never was in his prime during the Tiger run from 1996. Was it 1998? I think is when Tiger won his first Masters, right? When did Tiger win the Masters? 98 or 99? One of those. Late 90s is when Tiger won his first Masters. I don't think that those two were ever – I wouldn't consider those two a rival, Mickelson and Woods. But I would say these two were, definitely. Arnie has passed away. He is no longer here. I want to say he passed away the same year that Muhammad Ali, and I want to say Gordie Howe. I want to say like three of them, three big pioneers, all passed away in this. I could be wrong on that. All passed away in the same year, but I could be wrong on that. But again, this was definitely a rivalry in the golf world. If you know who they are, some people don't follow golf, so you don't know who they are. But if you do, even if you're a weekend golfer, you know who Jack Nicklaus is.
I know who they are.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, Jack and Arnie were definitely, they were must-see golf TV,
Correct. Yeah, that is correct.
Like, even if you were a casual fan of golf, a guy that only watched the Big Four, you had to know who, you knew Arnie and Phil were the ones or Jack were the ones to watch.
Yes.
Correct. And that was that era. I don't think there'll ever be another rivalry like that in the game of golf. If you want to say DeChambeau and Koepka, you can throw that out there.
Yeah, good.
But I don't think they were Jack and
Arnie. They can't stand each other.
Yeah, I don't think they were Jack and Arnie.
I don't see them on the same level as Jack and Arnie, because for Jack and Arnie, and to be considered a great rival, I think you have to be winning and competing against each other at the same time.
Yes.
Correct.
And you have to be a great rivalry, to be an all-time rivalry, and not just an interpersonal, I don't like you, you don't like me, let's just particulars and get it done, which I think DeChambeau and Koepka, that's their kind of their beef. Arnie and Jack had beef because they were both so competitive against each other. DeChambeau and Koepka are not winning titles. They're not winning tournaments.
No,
and so it's hard for me to put them in that same echelon. And the reason that Arnie and Jack hated each other is because they were both trying to beat each other each week.
Correct.
Tournament in and tournament out. They were the top two players in the world. You knew that if Jack wasn't winning it, Arnie was going to win it.
Right.
Yep.
But I think they only
correct.
had. I think they only had on the course, off the course. I don't think they hate each other. DeChambeau and
Koepka hate each other.
On and off the court.
And
yeah, that's correct.
But Koepka and DeChambeau are not competing for wins, and it's hard to say that they're in the same kind of rivalry category as Arnold.
But they can't say
they are now on the LIV Tour. They're both on the LIV Tour now, so both of them are on the LIV Tour. Yep, both of them are on the LIV Tour now. So
living like God.
Correct. Both of them are on the tour. That I come to find out, I read an article the other day that they made. How much money do you think that tour made last year?
$1.2 billion.
Oh, wow.
How about a whopping $0? They made no money. They made no because again, think about that. They had no TV deal. You can only watch them on streaming. A lot of the golfers on that tour are not well liked on the PGA. So if you were a big PGA Tour guy, you're like, okay, I don't give a shit about them. I don't care anymore. So
so they have a TV deal now
this year. So
yeah, the good thing is they didn't post a loss.
No, I mean, and then again, too, if you think of all the money that they spent to bring the PGA guys over there, signing bonuses. I mean, again,
huge
at the end of the day, Saudi Arabia has unlimited money. I mean,
basically,
their money
they print money.
I mean, the oil, it's not going anywhere.
Actually, fellas, they do have a television deal now. It's with the CW network. So I don't know if it's going to make any difference or not, but they do have a deal with that. But
they'll make a profit this year. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Right.
$5.
It was definitely putting the
$1.
Wow, that's even cheaper than I said. I said $5.
I think the biggest thing next year will be getting this coming year is showing improvement. We'll see what kind of ratings that they can pull being on CW. Can they pull ratings?
A -6.
Yeah,
that would be pretty hard for the bottom line because Saudi Arabia will pull the plug on it.
Right.
Correct.
Just because they have money to burn, doesn't mean they're gonna burn. They'll pull the plug on it that faster than you can say, "Well, where'd my oil money go?"
Mm-hmm.
Dried up.
And that, yeah. But yeah, that's the rivalry on that.
Well, I don't know if you can call it a rivalry. I mean, it's still kind of new, so I don't know if you can call it rivalry.
Oh, you mean live in the PGA Tour? Yeah, I mean it is. That's a newer one. And then again, can you really call it a rivalry with the Live Tour has only been around a year? I mean, let's talk about it. If it's still around 5 or 10 years from now, then we'll see if it's a rival of the PGA. Because right now the PGA is the NFL, right? I mean, when it comes to golf,
yes,
in that prospectum, Live is XFL or USFL or the Canadian League or whatever.
Well, I think it's more. I think we're looking at PGA versus Live, but if we're looking at it, this is 80s NFL versus the USFL. Because what the Live Tour has going for it is they have money.
Correct.
They have money, and I talked this to death, and I will beat it into the ground until somebody finally listens. You cannot start up a new league and compete with the big boys without money. This is what the Live Tour, why the Live Tour was able to snatch away all of them great golfers from the PGA is because they had money to spend. And and the PGA, the guys that were on the PGA Tour in 2021 that went to the Live Tour in 2022 are going to get to compete again in the PGA this year. Because Live has buying power. What Live doesn't have in prestige, they more than make up for in having the ability to pay their stars. And so we'll see in 5 years if the Live Tour is turning a profit and is profitable. And if they are profitable, the PGA better get its act together fast because they're going to be out the door.
Correct. Yep.
I don't know. Honestly,
I believe they're filing lawsuits against each other. I read that the other day too. So
yeah,
So
they both got money from lawyers. So
it's going to be interesting to see who wins that. The next one, Lou, I'm gonna throw this one to you because you're a Knicks fan.
Yes.
This was a 90s rivalry, too. It's funny how we got a lot of 90s rivalries on here. This was what? This started after Jordan retired the first time, correct?
Yeah, the fake retirement.
The big retirement. The one where he went to baseball, right?
Fake retirement.
You said fake with an F, right?
Well, fake because he didn't really mean that was just. I'll explain it later. But I would say the Knicks and the Bulls are more of a rivalry, and the Knicks and Celtics more than the Knicks and the Pacers, really.
Okay.
They did play a couple of series. The Knicks won the first one back in '94, and I was like thrilled to death. And then they came back. The Pacers came back and beat us in '95, thanks to that him.
Reggie.
I'm not gonna say his name. Yeah,
maybe one Reggie Miller.
Reggie Miller.
I prefer Reggie Jackson over Reggie Miller. Okay.
Well, I think I can understand why.
Or is it Spike Lee?
That's it. I think we Spike Lee before.
Well, they did a 30 for 30 about them, right?
Yes, they did.
The Knicks and the Pacers, right? Yeah.
The '95 series, which the Knicks could have won, or they could have won, the '93 series, but no, they gave the call to Jordan. Now that wasn't fixed. I don't know what is, but but the crowd was tonight. Game one, we had him on the ropes, and then Reggie Miller comes along, scores 9 points in 18 seconds or whatever it was. I'm like, this is just sickening, just sick.
Yep.
I think I threw up the whole day.
I think
you had to be there.
I can agree with that.
Yeah. Well, you guys were kind of young, but I recall it very well.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those, especially with a local rivalry that didn't garner, that wasn't as huge nationally.
No.
One of those I had to be there kind of things. Like, for me, and the Wings Avs, that was so big in the national hockey world that it was all anyone ever talked about, and it's still, some 30 years later, people still talk about Wings Avs, and it's still, it's still a good team. It's still we play each other twice a year, and we still sell out both games. So, with Knicks Pacers, and I'm not taking anything away from the Knicks Pacers. I'm sure it was great theater when it was on, but it's hard to sustain a rivalry when both teams kind of fall off.
Yes.
Those 2 years were great theater, great drama, great, fascinating basketball to watch, but both teams didn't sustain that level of competitiveness with each other
right
in the ensuing decade. So you didn't get 5 or 6 great series. And so it kind of lessens the rivalry where Knicks Celtics, you play each other, a dozen times a year, you face each other a dozen times in the playoffs, and you really build that hatred for each other, especially when you're watching those other guys hoist your trophies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
When you're watching Bird and Parrish win all your NBA titles, you just hate those guys.
Mm-hmm.
With a passion. Yes.
Well, and you look at the next one, guys, the Jordan, and that's Isaiah Thomas.
That
one, those two didn't like each other for multiple reasons.
They still don't like each other.
Jordan came in right as the Thomas era, the 80s era was ending. Jordan was the new wave of player. Did you guys tell me that he didn't want Isaiah on the dream team? Is that what kind of started the whole ruckus between the two?
That's exactly. Yeah, he didn't want the dream team.
Isaiah beat his ass for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they hated each other. They hated each other. And the 87, 88 Pistons, and the 88, 89 Pistons, they beat Jordan's Bulls en route to back-to-back titles. And it wasn't until 1990 when Jordan gets when Rodman leaves the Pistons and heads to Chicago, that the Bulls were able to get over the Pistons. And the Pistons of the late 80s, they were coming apart. Lambeer was getting old. Thomas couldn't stay healthy. Pippen was gone. Who was the other guy in the backcourt there? I can see his face. No, in Detroit. I cannot remember. The black guy whose name is escaping me right now. Oh, he's number 4. But and when they were all aging out, and they just felt absolutely disrespected by Jordan and the Bulls, because they felt like they had hardened Jordan. There was the Pistons of the late 80s. They were his crucible, and Jordan had survived the crucible and had gone on to win his first title, his first of 3 in a row, and he paid them absolutely no respect. And Isaiah Thomas said as much. Isaiah was very, very vocal in the media about not liking Jordan and about thinking he was a punk and a prima donna. And Jordan's got rabbit. He hears everything. And so they left him off the 92 Dream Team.
Yeah.
So that's what started it all, right? Was
yes.
They didn't like each other on the court, then off the court. Well, not really. I mean, on the court, but in the Olympics, obviously that's a big stage to be left off of, because how many gold medals did the Dream Team win?
All of them. All of them. They won and they won every game by 40 points. It was just the USA basketball had been embarrassed in, was it 88?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 88.
And lost and had to settle for bronze or silver. And they said never again. And they put the Dream Team together, and they won 8 straight gold medals. And
Yep.
And when they were putting the Dream Team together, the one guy that they didn't want on the team was Isaiah, because Isaiah and Jordan didn't go on, and Isaiah felt absolutely disrespected by that, and rightfully or wrongfully, that's up for other people with more, knowledge to decide. I personally, I think that Isaiah was kind of aging out in 92. I think Isaiah had kind of lost a step. And, you look at, Magic and Bird and Jordan, and I forget, I forget who all was on the 92 Dream Team. But they were all in their prime.
Bird, Johnson, Jordan, Ewing, Malone.
I thought
Johnson.
I thought Ewing was there, but I couldn't remember offhand. And I didn't want to say a name and not be there, but and then and so Isaiah has held on to that resentment for 30 years, and Jordan doesn't care. Jordan's like, you can hate me all you want, I don't care, it's whatever.
Well, I think sometimes with Jordan too, he'll come back and say, "How many rings I got?" Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
I got 6. I got 6. Not bragging, but I got 6.
Yes, you are.
I got 6 titles.
Bragging.
I don't remember who it was, but somebody had made some comment about Patrick Waugh, and the reporter that was after an Avalanche game, and the reporter asked him about it, and Patrick's comments were, "I couldn't hear him over my 2 Stanley Cup rings in my ear."
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting, but the reason I put the Pacers is I thought about that series in the 90s. But I mean, you're right. The Knicks probably have, with the Celtics, stuff like that. Obviously, I mean, we could have put the Lakers and the Celtics on that list too, because I know those two don't love each other either.
I was definitely
back to Bird and Magic, being that those two. What commercial did they make together?
McDonald's.
Mary's Farm. Larry's Farm, right? Is that where they made that commercial?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was on
The
Larry's
Hickser
Farm.
French Lick.
French Lick. Yep. Yeah.
You know, yeah, I was thinking about the fact that we don't have to get through the entire list. We can have a follow-up show later on in the year, definitely, because there's so many things that we haven't even touched on that we can touch on.
Correct.
Though I think that was one of the best commercials off the expressway, over the river, through my house, nothing but that. You had to live through it.
I remember that's one of the first NBA McDonald's time commercials that I remember.
Well, there I have the Lakers and Celtics right there, so it's on there.
Yeah, let's scroll down.
So we can go past these two right here, the two Undertaker and Andre. Those are fantasy rivalries. Yeah. Obviously, we never saw those guys. Bo Woody is a great one there. Red Sox Yankees, obviously. McEnroe Borg. That was, I think if Borg hadn't retired, there'd be more matches between those two. Where do you want me to stop? You want me to stop at Agassi? You want to do Agassi Sampras? Fraser Ali. Okay.
That was the one I was thinking.
You could do Fraser Ali. Go right ahead. That was a great rivalry. Probably would you consider that one of the best boxing rivalries ever?
Oh, no question. No question.
By far and away. By far and away. It was the reason that made that was the 70s boxing and in the 60s, but more so 70s was what made ESPN Classic so appealing in the mid 2000s. Because, and I know Lou's a little bit older, so he might actually remember some of those fights. But
I do.
For me, I didn't see those fights live. I had no idea who won or lost. So to watch those fights in their entirety without knowing the outcome was just awesome to live them as somebody who would have lived them, 30 years before that, getting to see Frazier and Ali go 3 times and have it be a 15-round war, and the build up to all 3 fights and the
it was 15.
And having their fights be the reason why we have 12-round title fights, because they were out to kill each other. And they were literally going to kill each other if it had been old school boxing, like, in the teens and 20s, where they didn't stop until someone went down. Yeah, they would have killed each other, and happily would have killed each other. Because
didn't they almost kill each other on a TV show?
they wanted to, because Ali was playing. Because Ali was playing up the race angle. Because and Frazier was clean cut and said all the right things and did all the right things, and Ali was a bad boy who was a draft dodger and spent time for draft dodging, and Frazier, and I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm going to say something that's probably controversial, but I think that in Ali's mind, Frazier was the white champion.
Yeah.
I think Frazier saw him definitely as he's the media darling, and Ali saw himself as the people's champion. Out there, he was let me rephrase. Not white, but corporate. Frazier was corporate America. He was the big money fighter, and Ali did all these things, said all these things that were race based to get under Frazier's skin, and and it worked. And they didn't like each other, and it was again, like I said, great theater. It really led to them wanting to kill each other.
Exactly.
They had 3 fights, right? Between the two of them?
Mm-hmm.
Ali won 2 of the 3. He lost the first one. Frazier beat him in the first one. Was that shortly after Ali came back from being cleared of draft dodging?
I believe it was. He had
Yes.
I think it was Frazier. Yes.
Yes.
So I can never.
Yeah, because then Frazier lost to, George Foreman, and then Ali won. That's one of those articles I've written too, where time machine thing. Obviously, the first one was the Miracle Ice game, but the other one was the Foreman Ali fight in the Rumble in the Jungle. I believe Frazier beat Ali and then went on to lose to Foreman. And I believe Ali fought Frazier again before he fought George. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that was a title. I think they had a number 1 contenders match before. I think Foreman Frazier 2 was a number 1 contenders fight.
Okay.
If I remember right, this would have been like 74. And then Frazier faced then Foreman faces Ali for the belt, and Ali wins, and then Ali is defending his belt against Frazier, and Ali wins the third one. If I remember right.
I don't mean to interrupt, but we are absolutely crushing the Avalanche right now at home. It's 5-0 Lightning in the third period.
Anytime they have lose is a good day for me.
Well, the last time these two teams played each other was Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final, so made me puke. That game made me puke. But you're right. I believe again. Would you consider this the greatest boxing rivalry out of all?
Oh,
would you say this one is number 1? Okay.
Who's better?
I don't think there's anyone better when it comes to boxing. I don't think there is one because there wasn't a lot of. And these guys had 3 matches. A lot of the
because Tyson didn't fight anybody more than twice.
No.
But
would you say Canelo versus Triple G? Would that be one that you'd put up there?
Not in the same category, man.
Okay.
Really.
Not for the pomp and circumstance.
Okay.
I mean, I think a great rivalry transcends the sport, and that's what, Frazier Ali, man, again, kind of like Wings Avs. If you were like the most casual sports fans and people that didn't like hockey would tune in for Wings Avs. I mean, casual, even your least casual boxing fan, somebody that doesn't watch boxing is paying for the pay-per-view or going somewhere to see Frazier Ali.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that boxing, and that was at the time where boxing was still a top sport in America.
Yes.
And it isn't today. I think UFC's kind of taken its spot in as far as Well,
the NFL has surpassed boxing.
Oh yeah.
When Ali Frazier was going on and Foreman Frazier and Foreman Ali was going on, boxing was still a top sport. It was up there. It was at that time where baseball and horse racing were America's favorite sports.
Correct.
It was boxing, it was baseball, it was horse racing. And now the NFL has surpassed everybody.
Yep, that is correct. Where do you guys want to go next? The All Black Springboks one is rugby. If anybody wants to know what that is.
Okay.
I don't know too terribly much about that. So
New Zealand, South Africa. We can do Hunt and Lotta if you want. I mean, that one is F1. Maybe, Gerald, I haven't heard Gerald talk in a long time, so maybe we should.
That's kind of,
Still with us?
So.
Yes.
I was thinking we could throw Cowboys Niners and let Gerald have a crack at it.
Sure can. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
I don't even think that one's on there, is it?
Doesn't have to be. You can add it right now. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be.
Okay. Yeah, that Cowboy and 49ers rivalry, that's been a great rival. It all started back with
Yes.
with that great catch by Dwight Clark.
Dwight Clark.
Mm-hmm.
That's what started it all. But now, I would like to see that rival continue.
Well,
And from what I heard was that we do play the 49ers next season in regular season.
Ooh, very nice.
So,
Yeah, I think
looks
about.
like they might be. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh no, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, that the 80s and 90s Cowboys, Niners, whether it was, Montana and Staubach at the end of his career, or Aikman and Young, all of them great, both teams winning Super Bowls. And, I guess that goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the show, is those great rivalries. You need to win titles to make it, to really have a great rivalry. You have to be competing for conference championships and titles.
You're right.
I can remember the one thing that I always remember from that rivalry was when Terrell Owens ran out and on the Star, and that started it was kind of, shouldn't say dying down, but that kind of like what put it back on the map for a while.
yeah.
And other than this year, it hasn't been one of but it will always be one of the best in the NFC. Hands down, it's one of the best rivalries in the NFC ever, because like Adam just said, how many times were those two teams playing for a conference championship? How many times did they meet in the division round to play against each other to go to the conference championship?
Let's see. I think they met 1, 2, 3, 4 times.
Yeah, something like that.
Between 4 and 6, yeah. And you have to be, and continue to sustain a rivalry over, and this is one of the, of all the rivalries we really talked about, this is one of the most long-standing rivalries that we talked about, like you said, the Dwight Clark catch in '81, the Star in the late '90s, and then just again this year, and that rivalry, and I think the thing that makes NFL rivalries so good, non-conference or non-divisional rivalries especially, is that you might only see each other once every 4 years. So when you do face each other, it's a big deal. It's different for like Cowboys Eagles, because you see each other twice a year.
Yeah.
Once at their house, once at yours.
Well, it's a rival, though.
And it's a built-in rivalry just because you're within the division. If they realign the divisions tomorrow, the rivalries would shift, and if they put the Eagles in the AFC West, and move the Chiefs to the NFC East, aside from travel being a nightmare, your rivals would shift. You would pick up Kansas City as a rival, which wouldn't be bad, because it's still KC. You've got Kansas City barbecue versus Texas barbecue, and it would still be you got Mahomes, and and so and the Eagles would going to the AFC West. They got the Raiders, and that would be a great rivalry, and so with divisional rivalries, you have those built-in games, but to have a non-divisional rival like a San Francisco and Dallas, it makes those games, that especially in the playoffs, in meaningful games, those are the games that make people sit up and take notice. And that's what's made the NFL such a juggernaut, is the fact that teams, that Dallas and San Francisco can hate each other, even though they only play once every 4 years.
Correct.
Speaking of rivals, There's another rival game. There's another rival game I just thought of too, but this is in college.
OU Texas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
Why not?
absolutely, absolutely. That's
Shootout.
That's one of the best rivalries in college football.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna talk,
That's the game I look forward to.
it's definitely one of the best early games of the year.
Next, we
It'll be
have
in the
OU.
SEC in
We have
June.
OU hate week. We have OU hate week.
Horns down.
The whole to the game, that's OU hate week. And of course, you know,
Horns
they
down.
used to have the bonfire. So since those players got hurt, I mean, since they quit it, that's this Texas and OU rivalry. It goes back to 100 plus years.
Yeah, it goes back to the wagon train days.
It's one of the best rivalries in college football.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And you know, it's because for those, and it's a benchmark for each team's season.
Yep.
Exactly.
Because it happens so early in the year. You know, unlike other rivalries like Michigan and Ohio State or Auburn and Alabama or the Army-Navy game, those games happen at the end of the year. So you know what you've got. And yeah, of course, you know, like this year, Michigan and Ohio State meant so much to both teams because it was a shot at the playoffs, and you know, we know all about that. But OU Texas happens in the middle of the year. It's so early in the year that you don't know, you know, that beating OU may or may not break your year. Right. You know, and so, you know, you don't, you know, it's a great way, it's a great barometer of how your season is looking. And I think that's what's one of the reasons why that's what makes that rivalry so good is because, you know, at the end of the day, we're only 5 or 6, 7 games in the year. So we still have at least a half a season to go before we know how things are going to shake out. And, you know, and again, and like any college football rivalry, it's cyclical. You know, a handful of years, OU will win 4 out of 6, and then the next handful of years, Texas will win a 4 out of 6, and then sometimes it's, you know, it's give and take. 1 year we win it, 1 year they win it. 1 year we win it, 1 year they win it. And OU Texas is very even over the course of the last 100 years. It's you don't see the massive dominating streaks like you do in other rivalries where, you know, where for a decade you're 10-2-2 against. When, you know, for like a decade, you're 10-2-0.
Yeah.
Because
against your biggest rival.
Texas and OU, they split that rivalry. Like Adam was saying, you know, 1 year Oklahoma
That's a rivalry
win.
right there.
Texas may win. Then the year after that, Oklahoma. Then it may go 2-3 years, Oklahoma wins and Texas lose. Then again, it may be 2-3 years, Texas wins, Oklahoma loses.
And then each team measures as it's an early measuring stick for each team, you know, and then you've got clowns saying you're back.
But again, like I said, that's the game I look forward to every year.
I look forward.
The rest of these games that we play, I really don't care about. But the Oklahoma and Texas game, you can ask my wife.
Yeah.
When that game was on, I'm glued to that TV like super glue glued to plastic.
Right.
Well, shall we set the list aside for now and talk about the Super Bowl?
We can do that.
All right.
We'll definitely come back to that and we'll add on more. And
Yep.
If there's a rivalry you didn't get to, you think we should have, leave a comment below and we'll take it under consideration.
Yeah.
And it can be any sport. Or if there's someone in a movie, let us know.
Yeah.
This Super Bowl is going to be great. It should be great. We got two of the best quarterbacks going up against each other. Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurst. This should be a great Super Bowl. It's going to be a low-scoring Super Bowl because both defenses are going to come out fired up and ready to play. I'm not looking for it to be a blowout. I'm going to say 2017 Chiefs take it by field goal.
Okay.
Last second field goal, Chiefs are going to pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to set a bench a little bit higher in terms of scoring. I think that'll be a little bit more scoring than that.
Yeah.
I got Eagles 31, Chiefs 23.
Said that
Somewhere
exit,
in the
in the championship game.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Philly's going to be like it was in a championship game against the 49ers. I think, the Broncos are going to – the Chiefs are going to, give it a good fight against Jalen Hurts. So I'm looking at the Chiefs to upset the Eagles 27-21.
I'm going to say Philadelphia 37-34.
Ooh.
And I think the only winner, and I've been saying this from the get
I think
but then again,
there's going to be a fair amount of
Scoring.
I think there'll be a fair amount of scoring. I think it'll go back and I think it'll be a fair amount of scoring. I think it'll go back and forth, and I think the Eagles will pull away late. I think that the biggest concern for me is Mahomes' ankle. I think that's can he move the pocket? And he doesn't have to scramble, but that ability to move the pocket and set his feet and throw the ball and exploit the Eagles' secondary, because that's the biggest weakness for the Eagles' defense is their secondary. And if they can get pressure with their front four and move him off his spot, I think they'll have success against Mahomes. And I think that the Eagles' defense is built to rush for and keep your quarterback contained. And we'll see if they can shut down that running game from Kansas City, because Pachinko can be dangerous. He could easily have 150 yards on Sunday night.
Right.
And if the Chiefs can establish a ground game and don't have to have Mahomes.
Well, I was going to say, guys, the line is 1.5.
How much is it?
Favored.
1.5. Eagles are favored.
Who's favored?
The Eagles are 1.5 point favorite. The over-under is 51 right now. So.
He hasn't moved much at all.
No, it's been pretty stable since the championship game.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason the Eagles are getting the 1.5 is because they're going to be considered the home team.
Yeah.
Home field doesn't matter as much in the Super Bowl as it does in other games, because you don't have that. You don't have a chorus of 60,000 people, screaming your name. So,
right.
when it comes to home field advantage in the NFL, which, don't get me wrong, home field advantage is home field advantage can make all the difference. But when you play on a neutral site, it takes the crowd out of it in a lot of ways, because you're going to see about a 50-50 split on the crowd. So both offenses are going to have to deal with generally the same level of noise. And we've seen crowd noise be disruptive to offenses in the past.
Yeah.
So I don't think either team will really have to worry about crowd noise. It's played in Arizona, so weather's not going to be a factor. You don't have to worry about gusty winds or rain. So it'll be a balmy 71 degrees. The rest of us are freezing to death.
Yeah.
Well, the only time that you had home field advantage was 2 years ago when the Bucks beat the Chiefs.
And it was only a relative home field advantage because the same amount of
Chiefs fans.
the Bucks and Chiefs fans all got allotted the same amount of tickets, and so it's all relative. So we'll see what happens. We'll have to wait and see what happens on Sunday night. I think that a fast start is important in a game like this. If you can start quick and you can establish the game you want to play quickly, and get a quick lead, and go and get settled in. I think that's so huge in terms both Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts have played in big games. I don't think the lights are going to be too big for either one of them. I don't think you have to worry about too many terrible mistakes, bad throws, throwing on the run, throwing back across your body, late over the middle on the run. I don't think we'll see either one of these quarterbacks making rookie mistakes, as it were. I think it'll definitely be a very, very disciplined quarterback game from both quarterbacks. Hurts has played in championship games. Mahomes has been in 2 Super Bowls. Both offensive lines are healthy. Now I heard that the Chiefs have a bit of a stomach bug going around, and their top receiver is right now listed as out. We'll have to wait until Sunday to see who all is going to go and who's not going to go.
The last thing we need, someone to get the stomach flu.
Yeah. So again, like I said, I think this will be a great Super Bowl. I think people are sleeping on the Super Bowl. I think this is going to be the best Super Bowl in a decade. From start to finish, I think this will be right up there with some of the great Super Bowls. I think this will be right up there with Seahawks Patriots from 2014.
Right.
I don't expect a blowout either way. Like I said, I expect the Eagles to come on late.
Not at all.
I like Gerald was saying, kind of a low scoring game. I think there'll be a couple of late touchdowns. I think the offenses will wear down. Okay, I think the offenses will wear down the defenses. I think you'll see a couple of late touchdowns from each team and a late field goal. I think it'll be really well played. I think it'll be really well balanced. I think of course, like any other football game, it'll come down to turnovers and penalties. And I just, as long as we have a clean Super Bowl without any egregious officiating errors, I think that. I think that'll be the biggest focus this weekend is officiating. Can we have a well called, cleanly called officiating game, or are we going to have some bad botched call that's going to cost one team or the other?
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully it won't come down to a bad call. I hate when people point the finger at the referees.
Be warned, though.
A game. Hopefully it doesn't come down to a bad call. That's what I'm hoping it doesn't happen.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's going to be close too. I don't see a blowout because both these teams have good defenses. Both these teams have good quarterbacks. There's no chink in the armor, as far as I'm concerned, on either one of them. Eagles led the league in sacks, so they're going to be coming, and they know Mahomes is hurt. So we'll see.
Well, I'll just see if his ankle is 100%. I think they're both well coached. Sirianni's done an excellent job in Philly, and we know who Andy Reid is. Andy Reid's a great head coach. He'd probably, if it wasn't for some guy in New England, he'd have 2 Super Bowls.
Right.
Very true. Very true.
And he'd be, I think he'd be up there with guys like Parcells and Chuck Noll and Dan Reeves in terms of, I think people sleep on Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
I think Andy Reid's a great head coach, and I think, he'll have the Chiefs ready to go on Sunday afternoon. And I also like the fact the game's kicking off at 6:30.
Me too. At least it'll be over around 10:30 ish. So at least you don't have to stay up till crack ass of dawn, and have to get up early for work the next morning.
Right.
So that's good. I like that too.
It's and it's on a Sunday, so you don't have to worry about so each coast should be relatively off, so you'll have plenty of time to get the only thing that drives me crazy about the Super Bowl is pregame.
Yeah.
I don't need 5 hours of pregame, 5.5 hours of pregame.
No.
Honestly, for me, the game could kick off at 1:00. They could have a 1:05 kickoff and be fine with me. Get it over and be done with it, and have all night to party.
Right. Well, I think the pregame's already started, so.
Yeah, definitely started too. And as soon as they fired the gun on the last game, I don't know who had the nightcap. Was it the Saints or the Bengals and the Chiefs?
Yes. Bengals and Chiefs.
When they fired the gun on Bengals Chiefs, they already started the pregame for the Super Bowl, and and for me, it's like there's just so much. There's just too much. It's just too much.
Yeah.
And by the time we get to the Super Bowl, I'm just ready for it to be over with.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need to go back to. For me, they just eliminate, do it with Pro Bowl, just do away with the Pro Bowl altogether.
Yeah.
And move the Super Bowl back to the first weekend in February. So,
right, because that Pro Bowl was a joke. That Pro Bowl was just a complete joke.
I didn't even bother tuning in because I heard it was awful.
I didn't even watch.
But
I didn't even watch it.
They had no interest. And so I think we see better Super Bowls happen when you have a week between the championship game and the Super Bowl. When you have the 2 week layoff, that's when you start getting into your playbook and you start drinking an extra pot of coffee, staying up late, trying to figure out that one play that's going to win you the Super Bowl right after kickoff. That first play from scrimmage, it's going to win us the game. We're going to have to dig deep into our bag of tricks, and then you have the ball go over Peyton Manning's head, and the route is on from there.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would just go back to 1 week in between the games, and the Super Bowl should be the week after the championship game, and then we can be done with football for 6 months. Be all right with that.
Till the draft.
Yeah.
Till the draft.
I kind of. I don't know about you. Go ahead, Luke.
Well, that particular brand of football, because now you got, of course, the XFL and the USFL. Right?
Yeah, but I don't care nearly as much about those as I do the NFL.
Right.
Of
course, they're knocking each other out this year. So.
But after 8 months of football, I've been watching every game I can get my hands on. I'm a little bit burnt out. I want a break.
Right.
And so having and in this line of work, with the NFL being so dominant, we have to cover the NFL. Otherwise, we're going to lose out on people that tune in to sports shows for the NFL and college football. Don't get me wrong, I love football, and in a couple of weeks I'll probably kick on an XFL game or USFL games, check them out, see how they're doing. But I'm not nearly as going to be dedicated. We're not going to be spending an hour on football on the end of the show,
Right.
And so, the next thing, the next thing to look forward to is the draft in April. So, it's kind of a cool down period. We get a couple of weeks off without NFL football. And so then, kind of like how I feel about NASCAR when the NASCAR season is over. I'm like, oh, good, it's over. And take a break and mellow out and let my excitement build back up for Daytona, which is a week from Sunday, actually.
A week from Sunday.
And so I'm excited, my excitement's building back for that. And so, I'm like looking forward to football being over and getting on to other things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like Adam said, I may turn on one or two XFL and UL football games just to watch them, but I'm not really gonna pay attention to them. I may have them on in the background and just listening, doing other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and then like Lou was saying, he said a couple of times on the show, it's like, how do you have a fan base if you don't have local teams?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Right. And
now,
growing.
Go ahead, Adam.
Oh no, I think we were going to say the same thing. As we were, similar vein. With growing up with the NFL, I had the Lions, and then by default, with the Lions being so sucky, when you live with a city with a bad team, you look for other teams to root for, you look for players to root for, and with Tom Brady having the Michigan connection, I kind of just fell in with the Patriots, and I've been a Patriots fan ever since Super Bowl. Since their first Super Bowl, the Rams Super Bowl, and so growing up with football and growing, and now having a new league that I don't have any connection to, it's hard to get invested into this new league, and I think what you were going to say is if Texas gets a team, if they put a team in Fort Worth, because they can't put a team in Houston, right? They can't put a team in Dallas, maybe San Antonio, maybe if the XFL or USFL expands to San Antonio, and San Antonio has a team, okay, there now you have somebody to root for. But until such a time, it's hard to follow. It's hard to follow a startup league when you have no familial bond to that team.
Exactly.
Growing up, I think we can all kind of agree with either our dads or grandpas, maybe an uncle. It was a male figure in our lives that got us into the teams that we root for. And so we root for the teams that our dads rooted for, or our uncles or our grandpas or whoever. And so
he was a Longhorn Cowboy fan, so I kind of followed in his direction of the teams to root for.
And maybe your dad wasn't a sports fan, but you glommed onto your local team because that was the team that was in your area. Those were the games that you got to watch. Now it's different, and it's something that me and my dad were talking about earlier, is the fact that there are so many outlets for sports. You don't have, and it goes back to what I was saying about All-Star games a couple weeks ago, or last week. Having an All-Star game is unnecessary at this point because you don't have, if I want to watch Connor McDavid,
exactly.
If I want to watch LeBron, if I want to watch Zeke Elliott, I just stream it. I pay for the streaming. If I want to watch Mike Trout, I'll just, pay for an MLB ticket, and I can, or I can see all the highlights on ESPN or on, a dozen different social media platforms. I can jump on, if I want to see, if I hear Trout hit a 475-yard bomb, I can jump on YouTube and go to the Angels page, and it'll be up there within 30 minutes. And so I think that I think it's different. The world that our kids are growing up in is so much different than the world that we grew up in. Even someone as young as I am, when I was growing up, you had your local team and you had SportsCenter, and that was it. If you wanted to watch out of market games, you had, if you wanted to see a Connor McDavid or a LeBron James or a Mike Trout or a Zeke Elliott, you either had to be there when they were in town or hope to catch their highlights on SportsCenter. Now, with the way tech is, with whether it be legal or illegal streaming services, you can watch anybody you want. On this show, we only use legal streaming services. We do not condone nor endorse the use of the illegal streaming platforms. For legal purposes,
we're gonna get in trouble. First show on the new network, we're gonna get in trouble.
Oh
no! For legal purposes, this network does not condone the use of illegal streaming services. But my lawyers told me to say that. And I think that's.
Don't time out.
Only got 4 minutes left, bud.
Okay.
You're not my real dad. You can't tell me what to do.
After the show's over with, you got a 1 week suspension. You're now allowed back until next week.
You're not my real dad. You can't tell me what to do.
Oh my goodness!
Wow. We may be going places. It's not college, but we're going places.
We are.
What the hell did I just do? What the hell did I just do? Brad, nobody calls me doing this. Like, what did I just get myself into? What did I just do?
Like I said, I leave one network and join 3, and I'm going to get roasted off of the air for using illegal streaming services. So
I said we do not condone. I want to make that perfectly clear. We do not condone the use of illegal streaming platforms.
Apologize to Snowman Media and Mancini Media. We apologize.
We do not condone it. I know don't use illegal streaming services.
It was for only for illustrative purposes.
So,
but
forgive us for what we say. We know now. So now we know. Hey, where's the duct tape for Adam? my wife wants to know what the duct tape is.
But I still stand by my point, though. I stand by my point. But the idea that we're not locked into any one team anymore. And it makes knowing who the best. It makes the things that we do so much. That the things that this show and shows like us do is we don't have to be. Well, the 4 of us are in 4 different cities on 4 different time zones, and we can, not 4, but 2 different time zones, and we can come on every week and we can talk about these things, and we all are getting information at a moment's notice with the way that the internet has propagated throughout sports and just throughout our lives in general. We have the ability. We can watch all of our favorite players and know all of their stats, and it's a 2-second Google search to see who's up, who's down, who's in, who's out, and we get. It's like it was when me and my dad were talking about it.
When you get DirecTV, you get all the NFL networks, you get all the NBA networks, you get all the MLB networks. So, and then you get ESPN, FS1,
CBS Sports.
So there you go. You can get all your information right then and there. But when we were growing up, like Adam was saying, we sit in front of the TV, watch one game, then after that, we head over to Sports Center to see what the other teams did.
Yeah.
But now go to the Score app, and it pulls up all the teams and the scores.
And you're watching Bowling Green versus Buffalo on a Tuesday night, the Met game of the week.
In Buffalo, huh?
Yeah. Well, they were the first 2 MAC teams that came to my mind. All right, sorry, Central and Western Michigan. Is that worse?
Not at all.
They were two crappy teams. Okay. But to illustrate my point is, the idea that we can watch any game, in any conference, in any league, at our leisure, so you grew up in Buffalo, right? And so you root for the whatever they are, I don't remember what the bison, or I don't remember what Buffalo's mascot is. But and let's say you moved out to Arizona for a job. 30 years ago, when Gerald was a young man, not that he's old, but when he was younger, if he wanted to know what was going on,
Wait a minute, I'm not that old.
I didn't say you were old.
Right.
I didn't say you were old.
No, I'll be 50 this year. I'll be 50 this year.
But when 30 years ago, when you were younger than you are now. Right.
No, 30. I was around 19.
And so, like if you wanted to know what happened in that Buffalo game, right? Let's say, just for want of an example, if you wanted to know what happened to Buffalo in the MAC game of the week, you'd have to wait until Monday morning when the paper came out, get the paper, and hope that game was in the paper, that it made the, because this is or you had to subscribe to a Buffalo newspaper, have it shipped all the way across the country. Now, if you want to watch that game, if you want to watch highlights, there's people that put up highlights on YouTube for you to watch, or you go to the university's website and go, oh, hey, the university has a live stream of the game that's perfectly legal for anyone to use because it's put out by the university.
And there's another
and so
I sent it to Lou that's a legal app that you can use to watch your games on, and it's called Dofu.
Yeah.
Adam, you know what you're talking about.
I use it.
Yeah.
I've used it before.
It's legal.
I've other sites though.
It's legal.
And so
all you do is go to the Google Play Store, download it, and you can get all the games you want right there, all in one spot.
And so like if you're if maybe you're an international hockey fan and the Czechs are playing the Finns at 3:00 on a Wednesday afternoon, and you're like, ooh, that's we're getting ready for the Winter Olympics, and this is a qualifying game, this is an important game, I want to watch that. You can watch that game now, whereas 20, 30 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to watch that game.
No.
You would have had to either you would have had to wait until and hope that it was in the newspaper, or maybe you subscribe to a magazine that covered international hockey. You'd have to subscribe to a magazine, or you'd have to subscribe to a Finnish newspaper and have it brought over, and hope that newspaper was in the sports section. They covered that hockey game, and you'd have to learn Finn and be able to translate it out of Finnish into English, and so it was that's when things were like all-star games mattered, when you couldn't just watch the game, you couldn't just watch the top stars play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, this has gone off the rails.
Yeah.
Well, with that, guys, and does anybody want to have any closing arguments before we close the show out?
The trade Stay tuned. Next week is going to be the first episode of the Wisconsin Report, so please join in and watch it. And
clear my calendar.
Is more than welcome. It's going to be five. It's going to be from 5 to 7 Central Time, 6 to 8 Eastern Standard.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Once again, you're welcome on any of the shows that we do. No hard feelings towards you, brother.
Thanks.
I have that much respect for you, Lou.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. And of course, I got my show, the Enhanced Sports Show, Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in for the pregame. No, not that pregame. Our pregame, of course. Oh boy. Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Pro Bowl, or we want to call it these days. We'll take a look at the NFL awards which are going on right now. I'll go over the complete list. We'll also take a look at the NBA trade deadline, which happened today. So we're going to cover as much as we can. If there's anything left over, I'll cover that next week as well. And of course, we'll discuss LeBron James' record-breaking night, which happened on Tuesday. I saw that, and the NHL All-Star Game, which I thought was very entertaining. So all this and more Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the Enhanced Sports Show. Call 512-543-4662 Saturday.
All right. Well, guys, like I said, thank you for joining us on the Walker Report. Again, we are part of NGSC Sports. Remember the website, guys. It's ngscsports.com. Yours surely just put an article up. It should be up in the next couple of days. But we are part of 3 new networks, one being Gerald's network, the Game Winner Sports Network. We are part of Snowman Multimedia Sports. And I'm back on Mancini Media. It's been a while since I've been on that network. Mark reached out to me the other day. We are sponsored by CreatingZenSpaces.com and Garrett'sCarrots.com. We have an official Instagram account, the Walker Report _official. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, we are 1 subscriber away from 50. Somebody could be lucky number 50 out there. But anyway, guys, we will be back next week from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here. We want to send out, of course, to the men and women of our armed services and our first responders. Thank you for doing what you do. And again, we love all you guys. Thank you for joining us either on Facebook or the show will be up on YouTube at the conclusion. Until then, I am the Sportster Bradley Walker. Peace.
Cut, print, send it.